It amazes me every time I learn something new, whether it be something I later had figured out because of depth and thought, but thinking something for over and over and over again. Yes, these are wear glasses, but I'm trying to not see too much of my face in the video at the moment. They're trying to help me see at nighttime late as it is here. Anyway, the point of the matter is that I think we all are blessed with certain gifts, and one of the gifts I'm pretty sure I'm blessed with is being able to hear my Father inside of me, being able to hear God, and have Him help me figure out certain stuff and the way my brain works and all this. Just like how Chris Tanner, Repairman 101, I believe he has a gift on how certain stuff works for him. Now I'm going to turn over to this side right there and get on full brightness with these ugly glasses here. Goodness gracious. Because I'm going to be talking some more stuff I realized recently about this cane and what happened on that day that caused, stuff to break off and whatnot, and everything else and whatnot. Okay, so this thing right here I didn't really figure out, or was given to me, was seen in the video, so it was not gifted to me. The explaining between a hard knife and a strong knife. Now, a few years back, I basically found out the difference between good, great, and garbage blades, and which ones are more for looks, which ones ain't. This looks cool, it does. Or at least to me, it does. This is a decently sharp looking blade that is decently thick. This is a Chippewa cutlery, being that a frost cutlery blade. This is one I've almost never used. I forget why I want it, and it feels decent, but I know it's not really much more than a collector's used for a light task wall hanger style knife. You might, if you had no choice, use this for one self-defense, and that probably maybe a few, depending on how big of a tiger heart that came at you or whatever. If you had to, you had no choice. But this right here it's more for looks than anything else. It really is. Especially that saw right there. That's not even sharp at all. It's just pointed, and it's not even really jagged, sharp edge point. It's more like rounded. I'm not sure why that right there is there anymore, and I can just tell just by feeling this. This is not really a strong knife. I could easily break this if I wanted to. If I really wanted to, I could just snap it in half. I'm not going to though, because I'm not the one that paid for this one. I got it, and it's still a decent collectible blade. This is what I consider a low quality steel hard knife. The only reason I'm calling it hard because how thick it is, it does have a decent construction for small chopping ability. But here's another collectible item, same company, more Western style, whatnot. This one is probably my best one. And this one right here, I'm not sure what it's steel made, but it's so gosh darn thick. But I can just tell from using it, it's a hard steel. It's not a strong steel, it's a hard steel. But it still feels pretty gosh darn good. And hey, this is actually my most legit decent blade I can use for work and not worry too much. Because I decently keep the edge up. Not gratefully, but decently. But this is still also a hard knife, not a strong knife. And if y'all want to know what I'm talking about, just go to one of Summer Jessica for Repairman 101's videos. And he will have a guy explaining that in the best way, the differences. Now my best way of explaining it, a strong knife is one that has steel or metal type of stuff is made out of, that is easily takes shock better, takes the shock impact with force, and the whole entire thing kind of flexes, but not that you can see it, but the molecular molecules of it can, and whatnot, has the ability, that flexibility, whatnot. It's like, for example, say you hit a board with a crowbar, it's going to flex and flex right back out. You hit a center block's going to crack because the center block's too hard and the board's strong. Now, similar to cold steel polypropylene canes, these are strong canes. They feel hard, but they're strong because the stuff that's inside, how they're molded. The only thing ever broke off this was the end. That's it. Because the end had a piece gap for a rubber cap to go on. And this was just a little thing that pops on, it just popped out. We hit it that way and it popped off forward, the shock of it, the shock waves. I think the reason we couldn't break them center blocks that day is I've heard that when you're swinging or something or punching one of them boards supposed to break, you're supposed to pretend like you're going to punch behind it or you're going forward it. So we was trying to swing as we want to make a hit right forward and maybe stop, but kept on going, trying to push it past it like it wasn't even there. Maybe we would have broke through it. And one more last thing, in that video, I gotta take these golf starting glasses off. Oh, never mind, that's too bright. In that video with Mr. Tactical and the M48 hammer, you see, their stuff of how they do the handles on them long ones, they make it a lot more flexible and a lot less hard as the little ones. But I don't know why, I don't know if it's because it's longer and it happens that way or what. But you can tell with a cane like this, being this strong, but also having that hardness feeling to it though, instead of the long ones that are also somewhat strong but having that weak, flexible feeling. They're okay and they're stretchable and they're flexible, that rubberized material. But when they get up to where that metal meets the handle, it's hollow in there and it screws the metal in, it's what keeps it together. And with Mr. Tactical, he choked up and put so much more force and more what you would call red marks on a diagram, bad zone pressure. He put so much up when he choked up on, that's when he broke it. The only time he broke it when he choked up. Anytime he was way back there, it allowed the rest of that, M48 hammer to flex, well, it stays straight. And that's what makes them do that. The more you possibly choke up or less that flexes, and the more it's trying to stay straight on like it's, what they're trying to do, the more it breaks off because like I said, and also the hammer is the most acceptable because it's a flat object. It's going to stay still, it's not going to sink in, it's going to hit something, put shock through it, it's going to absorb the shock both back and forth. An item that has a blade is going to sink in, pierce right through a little bit of shock, but not as much is going to come into that as it is into the object, because it pierces through. Instead of wanting to possibly bounce back, it's sticking in and staying in. Hammer wants to bounce back and everything else. Doesn't want to stick in, just wants to hit, either stop or bounce back. And with choking up, that's what's going to happen. Because, they make it so skinny and narrow and hollow to fit the metal in. And that's another reason why people for SOG and whatnot make theirs even more harder, have metal up there, bolted onto the metal. Unlike that with the M48 ones. And that's why that happened, I do believe, that I've now figured out recently. I could have figured out before, I think, and I wish I would have, but he sent that to me recently. Thank you. Sure enough, it's not what I'm talking about, thank goodness. Alright folks, see you around.